it's your own experience. Nobody will really teach you how to photograph. It is the experience that you will take by your own. Each time you go, you will learn something else. My name is Arif Mohammed Janahi, and I am an MBA holder. I've been working in the banking sector for many years until recently. In fact, it started early, I would say around 2012, 2013, when I was going to some of the liveaboard trips without a camera, and I could see some of the photographers having their cameras, and I was always looking at them, observe the lighting and all of this. And 2015, I bought my first camera. And I didn't know much about camera at that time. I bought the camera and the housing without any lights, so my photos were really bad at that time. And with time, I started to understand how the whole system works. So I started in 2015, early 2015, yes. Yeah, my source of passion is to basically photograph something which we do not really see in real life. For example, if you dive, for example, and you see any object, you see it dull in terms of colors. But when you take a photo of that object with the right lighting, you will see the colors. And this is because of the physics of the depth of the water and the light or underwater light. The deeper you go, the less light you will find in different depths, and you compensate for the loss of light by lighting. So when you take a photo with the right equipment, you will see the colors of the object. Here where the inspiration started. Whenever I take a photo, I see the object or the fish or whatever I'm taking photo of, or the coral sometimes, is in different shape, different color. Definitely, I think that photographers have to contribute to the society and contribute to nature. Honestly, I never knew the importance of the underwater life, fish or whatever, life underwater, corals, whatever you see in the water has a role to play in the whole ecosystem. And by taking photos, trying to basically get the right photo, I started to observe the animals underwater. And then I started to think why this animal exists. Then, with time, I started to understand the whole ecosystem underwater. They are very important for our life, in fact. Without maybe a smallest creature in water, the bigger creature that will feed on is not there, and it's kind of a chain that creates the whole ecosystem underwater. The importance of these are the importance of our life. When we eat, for example, the protein, which is fish, they come from different, a specific or very sophisticated ecosystem. When we look at the energy that we get from the water, that water has ecosystem that lives on, and without those fish or without those creatures will never be in existence. So it's very complicated and complex for a human to understand, but it's very important as well. I love water since I was a kid, and I think it's because of my what I heard about my grandfather that I never saw. He was a pearl diver. I have only 2 or 3 photos of him, and you know how they look, the old pearl divers, very thin, different color, dark color. So from the photos, when I saw the photo and heard my father talking about him, I really loved diving. So I started diving since early, I would say, but without the scuba dive or the tank, or not scuba diving, the normal dive. And I remember the first days we used to go to Budaya beach, Abu Subh, Sahel Abu Subh. Those days was one of the famous places. We had also Bilad al Jazair, In the old days, we used to go there. Sitra side, Halat Al-Beid. That was a very famous place for hunting crabs. I used to go since I was a kid to those places frequently. Ras Al Bar as well. So I got used to the water from that time. And then I was with a friend. I remember it was in 2003, talking about life. We were students at that time, or maybe I was not a student. I was working and a student as well. We were talking, and he said, I registered for scuba diving. And at that time, scuba diving was not famous at all in Bahrain. So I said, what is scuba diving? With tank you mean? So he said, yes. And I got the information. I went with him and I did my first course in 2003. And it was in December, I remember. It was so cold. And from there, I started scuba diving. The favorite spots in Bahrain are I would say, more than one place. I will start from the shallower place, which is Bilad Al Jazair or Zallag. That beach is unique because the water is clear most of the time. If it's windy, it will not be clear because it is very shallow. So I would say the sand underwater will be steered with the wind. But when the climate is right, the water over there is clear. The sand is very clear, and I usually find some special creatures over there. The creatures, the special ones, I've seen a pipefish, for example. A pipefish is something like a long kind of a fish, and it is a seahorse species, in fact, but they call it fish. I saw it once, and I have one photo. It's not very clear, but at least, you can see what is it. It's really colorful. The creature is very small in size, so it's a bit tough to find it. Further, I saw different species of seahorses over there, and I've never seen any of them around the world. I even searched for them on the internet. I couldn't see those species, so I think they are very rare species that maybe, I'm not sure, live only in this part of the world. Another spot is Bulthama. Bulthama is very much famous. It is in north of Bahrain. It's around 70 miles from Amwaj around. We reach it by boat. It takes time. But the reef itself is one of the best in Bahrain in terms of the types of corals and the diversity of corals. It's a 10-meter depth at the top, and it goes down to 15, 16, and it will go to further even deeper, but we usually shoot animals at 10 to 15. It has a variety of animals, fish. There is something that's called, it's a new species that was discovered by a friend of mine and I in 2020. It's called Costacella, which we found first in Bulthama Reef. It's a sea slug, around 5 millimeters in size, very small one, very special creature, and I'm happy that we discovered it in 2020. A third place, I would say, a place called Bu'amama. Bu'amama is also on the west of Bahrain. It's also far from here. It's around 1.5 hours by speedboat. The place is for pearl, usually pearl collection, but in this place I can usually find small species like small shrimps. They call them peacock tail shrimp, and other species as well. So I like that place. It's really special, and it's around 10 to 12 meters depth. A fourth place could be in Fasht al-Azam. Fasht al-Azam is a big area. So some spots in Fasht al-Azam, I can find some species of nudibranchs, which is the sea slugs, small nudibranchs, very colorful. I really like that place also for these kinds of species. I'm sure that I want to, or I need to improve in my bringing out the beauty of what we have in Bahrain in my photos. But lately, I started to maybe have a niche of what I want to photograph in our waters. Maybe everyone knows about the bigger fish, the types of the fish that Bahrain is famous with. So I started to look at the very small creatures, like what I earlier said, the Costacella. Now, the Costacella as a name is a Japanese name because it was first discovered in Japan. I hope that we name it a Bahraini name because the creature we have has different colors, different shape. It's the same species maybe, but different kind of a type of the species. So if we can name these Bahraini names because they live in the Gulf water, in the salty Gulf water in Bahrain, that is something that I want to showcase. And there are other small species that I want to showcase in Bahrain. So basically, I want to show things that even divers themselves cannot see when they pass through those very small critters. And I'm talking about something in 3 to 10 millimeters in size. One type of photography that I really like and I'm obsessed with, I would say, and I would say better than wide angle photography is the macro photography. Now, macro photography is photographing small, very small critters or animals. The use for macro photography is macro lens. And on top of the macro lens, if the species is very small in millimeters, I use a diopter on top of it. So it's like a macro photography, 90 millimeter or 100 millimeter. And then on top of that, there is a diopter or a magnifier. On top of that, that magnifies the creature by another 10 to 15 times. Obstacles could be many because of, because of nature. Sometimes the clarity of water, and this is the major obstacle. If the visibility is bad, then the whole journey of photography is difficult. Again, here the wide angle photography requires clear visibility. But when it comes to macro, it's different because the visibility is not an issue. And this is the reason for me to like the macro photography further than wide angle. But yes, I would see the visibility of the water, climate, if it's too cold or too hot, that is another obstacle. The current underwater. Some of the sites are of very high current because some of the high current places makes the dive special, especially on the bigger stuff like the bigger sharks and the bigger manta rays. They like to swim in the strong currents. So those are also some of the factors that affects or make the journey of photography underwater difficult. Turning point in my life was, I think, to start scuba diving in 2003, because then I started to look at life in a different way. I started to like nature more. And another turning point was maybe when I started to understand what is or how the right photography works in terms of not only having a camera with a housing, but how to use lighting. This was another turning point for me to start shooting right and also try to improve on my own photography. I have that kind of a competition between myself and myself. So when I take some photos, I compare them to last year or the previous years, and I see the development and improvement. And this is another, I think, turning point in my life to look at even the creatures in different manner. I produced this coffee table book in 2020, and it contains all of my photos, mainly macro photos, and it has different sections. But the idea of the book came through, it was incidental. I was taking photos in Indonesia, and at night I was showing a diver and photographer who is very famous in Indonesia. And I showed him a photo, which was, and I told him about it and the story behind it. When he saw the photo, he said, you need to enter or enroll in a competition for this photo or to have a book for it, because it's really a good one. And I really thought about it at the same time, same night, why not a book? When I came back to Bahrain, I started to gather my photos, and I did this coffee table book. The book contains of photos and the names of the creatures. And I have different sections in it. Started with Bahrain, then other countries, country by country. This book contains photos mainly of macro photographers or macro photos, macro creatures, with a very few wide-angle photos. I saw this fish on this, they call it wire coral, and this is a wire coral goby. And I saw the eggs, the babies of this. This is the mother, and these are the eggs. And I could see the eyes very visible, which means that they will hatch soon. Now, I'm not a biologist. I do not know when they will hatch, but I had a feeling that I will find them or get the moment when they hatch. And I had one full dive without hatching. I went out. After 1 hour, I went for another 1.5 hours on the same spot, having my camera ready. Didn't hatch. Went back to the hotel room, came back after maybe 3 hours. Another dive, no hatch. Fourth one, within the, I would say, first 5-6 minutes, I've got the first baby coming out in this photo. And this is very special. Maybe it's small, not very visible, but the first hatching baby was caught in camera. And I think this is really special. This cannot be repeated, and I will not find it anywhere else. Even with other photographers, I think it's difficult. When it's videography, you can find something like this, but when it's a photo, to get the right moment in the right place in focus is not an easy. I wouldn't say easy. This was luck. I think that the biggest supporter were my family, my wife and daughters. They give me all the freedom to go and enjoy photographing, and they in fact enjoy my photos when I come back, and they start to also learn about the different animals and fish and critters of the world. There are many good trips that I've done, but maybe the best trip I've done was on the far east of Indonesia, a place called Raja Ampat, and the reason was the diversity of the corals that I've seen. And reading about it afterwards, I made sure that, or I was made confirmation that spot is in the world is the most diverse spot in terms of coral. Soft corals, hard corals, different species, and I think they have more than 1,700 different species of corals. I have a plan, and it's near completion now, to start having photography sessions to divers, of course. My advice for underwater photographers is to start properly. Usually people say start with, I would say, not a very strong equipment or camera. Start with something cheap. I think that wasn't a very good advice for me, because soon you will start to upgrade. You start with something decent, start properly, go to courses, even on online courses, understand the basics of photography, and then start. And then to your own experience. Nobody will really teach you how to photograph. It is the experience that you will take by your own. Each time you go, you will learn something else. Yeah, the message to the world is that I think we know very little about the oceans. Oceans are 70% of the world, and we know only the 30%, which is land. Now, the 70% mainly is undiscovered, because we can dive up to only a few meters, 40 meters for recreational divers. Usually we as photographers go around 20-25 meters. So what is there in the water, in the ocean, is much bigger. So what I would like to say is to save the water, save the oceans from pollution and from, destroy. If my life was an episode, I would maybe name it The Underwater Discovery, or The Underwater Discovery Man, because I usually, when I dive, I try to discover small creatures, not only to take them on photo, but to see them, maybe then take a photo, and then try to search for what is it, basically.
you.